There we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to He Can't Craft. No longer Hubby Can't Craft or Honey Can't Craft, but that's a whole nother story. Gonna go over a couple things, maybe just one thing, on the 65 Mustang AOD conversion and the brake setup. So we'll start with this little introduction. There's the engine. And I'll try and film some when we get it up on the lift, but what I want to show you is the Hurst crossmember that I've got and why it has been such a PETA to get it figured out. Right now it has a TCI or some other tubular crossmember. You'll see that one, and you're thinking, well, what the hell, why isn't that one okay? The brake crossmember setup, the brake lever that goes up to this inside pull, cable pull. Well, here. So, this is the Hurst crossmember for the AOD conversion on a 65 Mustang. 64.5 to 66, so it's all about the same. It's got the right bracket set up. That was test fit up on the lift when we tried to put it in the first time. What we didn't realize was, and I'll clip a picture or something in, the factory transmission mount on a 65 Mustang does not fit in this channel. And it doesn't fit those bolt holes. And you're thinking, well, how can that be? And maybe I'm just a dunderhead, or, you know, you'd think you'd call Holly, who bought Hurst, or CJ Pony Parts, and say, what motor mount do I need to make this work with that conversion? The transmission mount that I have in there right now, in that car over there, is a tubular version, which these are pretty wide. It fits on the frame. It swings down just fine. But this piece here, for the brake lever, it's kind of a thing, and it kind of, or it sits like this with a spring, and then it gets pulled from the lever inside, which pulls on the brake cables with an equalizer. And it's very tight. There's exhaust pipes and all that stuff. You'll see that in the pictures. But the transmission mount that comes on a normal automatic 65 does not fit in that bolt pattern, and it does not fit in this channel. And the reason I wanted to use this one over the tubular one was because of this very beefy welded on setup there. What transmission mount do you use in this crossmember? I'll mess it up again, I'm sure. You cannot use the factory 65 transmission mount. I called Holly, and I even emailed CJ Pony Parts. There's no notes, there's no instructions, there's nothing that comes with this to say how to do it, other than the bolts. What do I do with the bolts? It comes with these, and the spacer, which who knows what that's for. So there's no instructions or anything on this, so I've kind of buried the lead. The guy at Holly looked up, Larry at Holly, looked up and he found this. This is the A2388 transmission mount for an AOD off of where the AODs come from in the late 70s, early 80s cars. And lo and behold, put this up here so you can see it. Lo and behold, interesting. Lo and behold, that fits in there, and that is correct for the bolts and the fitment. So this crossmember uses the factory late model AOD transmission mount, not the 65 mount that the other one uses. That is not obvious when you buy this, because there's no delineation or anything that says, oh, by the way, you need this mount. Now the trick is going to be, did this clearance work and not jack the transmission way up? Because this distance is different than the factory one by about 1 inch. So we will see if that is the case when we have it up in the air. More to come. Alright, so here's the tubular cross member that I mentioned earlier in the video that is actually mounted on the car. There's the brake lever and the equalizer bar. You can't see the equalizer in that photo, and how it's mounted underneath the transmission. And I'm voicing over because you didn't want to hear what we were saying when we were looking at it. So that's the full setup. You know, one thing you don't realize when you're shooting these videos is what's going on in the background, so I had to silence this one when we were explaining that when you added the factory 65 transmission mount onto that tubular crossmember that we've now taken off the car, it is almost exactly the same height as the Hurst crossmember with the late model factory transmission mount. So he's pointing at it there. So we're lining up the holes. We're looking at it maybe being a little bit lower, but not much. But in effect, it comes out to be the exact same height. All right, the Hurst motor mount fits perfectly onto the crossmember, or it is the crossmember onto the frame rails. What's not so perfect is you see how just out of tolerance when that bolt hole is when the other one is perfectly lined up. Here's the transmission mount in its saddle. It's bolted to the bottom of the transmission, and it comes right through the bottom of the Hurst crossmember in exactly the right spot that it needs to be in. The brake lever carrier, I guess you could say, is in the right spot also. And sorry for the shaky video and turning all over. I was trying to get a good shot of all that stack up that you can see there. Here we're looking at the brake lever bar into its saddle, and then the equalizer for the brake cables right there that it's screwed onto. That is a equalizer from a Jeep, not from a Mustang, as you can see. But you can see how close it was to the pipes. Here we are tightening everything up. There are the two factory nuts off of the 65 transmission mount, which you'll see in a second. And we're just getting everything cranked down onto those frame rails. We had to widen that hole up for the other one to fit. Here's the tubular with the 65 transmission mount for the C4 and the plate that has been welded to strengthen that brake, and how wide those frame rail mounts are. We had to use bushings, and they're all kind of tweaked, so the new one is not like that. Here we have a mystery spacer that was in that bag, remember from the beginning of the video, that looks like it would be a spacer for the tubular crossmember, but it's not for the tubular crossmember. It came with the Hurst. And so we think we know what we're going to do with that, or what it's for, so we don't keep burying, the anticipation. Let's walk over to the car, put it up, and you can barely see it here, but it's going up against the shift lever to kick out the linkage just a little bit. And in this next clip, there it is installed, and it kicks it out just about the right amount of distance, a couple inch and a half, or we thought it was 2 inches. I guess we could have put a tape on it, but there you can see everything's bolted together. We have the brake equalizer bar off. I think we're doing some more tweaking on that, but we got that pretty much lined in. Here it is installed with a longer bolt that you have to supply. As you just saw, the crossmember and the motor mount were installed. The brake lever was uninstalled, and it's been reinstalled with the equalizer bar, and all that had to be tweaked a little bit because of the way I've got the dual exhaust coming out. It's very tight, and I've also got a four-wheel disc brake kit, so the cables that are running from the brakes up forward are not even in the same position, so it's just a big mess. And so all these things had to be sourced, and all these parts separately. The kit that you can buy, which if you do an AOD conversion, I think I would recommend buying the kit rather than kludging everything together. And so what you saw from the information I got from Larry at Holley was the motor mount to use is most likely, we thought at the time, and has proven to be true, the late model AOD, did I say motor mount again? Transmission mount. And you can see that in the auto parts store that was below here. And somewhere along in here you'll see that the two are lined up. It's the A2388 with the Hurst crossmember in the background, so you can take a look at that. Now the one that I was using before may have been, I thought it was a TCI or something. It's probably the California Pony Cars crossmember, the CPC, with their brake adapter, their brake lever adapter. And the issue with that is, at least for me, when you pulled on the brake lever on the inside of the car, it tended to bend up the plate that was used that goes between the transmission and the transmission adapter. And the adapter plate with the brake on it, you can kind of see it in this picture here, the stack up. Imagine the 65 transmission mount being between these two, and it's flipped upside down in this photo. If you flipped it over correctly, that it's installed on the car, you would see that when you pull on that transmission mount, when you pull on that brake, that thin piece of metal flexes and it just throws everything off. And so that didn't work for me. That's why I had to go to the Hurst crossmember, and you can see that in this next photo. You can hear somebody in the background revving. The Hurst crossmember is a lot more beefy. Well, the tubular one's beefy too. The brake adapter for the brake lever is welded to the channel, so that isn't going to move at all. And it is in the right spot, I believe, if you're just going to do the AOD conversion with all the other disc brakes and headers or any of that other stuff. And so that is probably the way to be. What is maybe something that Hurst could look into is when you look at the specs and go through all of their website, if under tech support they had instructions, and in those instructions, if it just said you must use the factory AOD crossmember, not the 65. Maybe everybody who buys these realizes that because they've sourced it out of a car that's got the AOD, but I think most people are going to buy the AOD separately. They're going to buy it from the auto parts store or Summit or CJ Pony Parts. They're going to buy, or just your transmission shop, and it's going to come without the transmission mount that was in the car at the time. They're going to take that off when they hot tank it and get it all cleaned up. So that would be helpful if you find that this video has been minimally helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully your AOD transmission install has gone a little smoother than mine. We're still trying to get the gear shift to fully cooperate, so that may have to be a whole nother thing. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.